I'm just going to let it roll.
All right.
Go.
We'll get the guitar out at the end.
Yeah.
All right.
There is a story behind the cow thing.
Okay. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. All right. So we ready? Hopefully the dog won't make a big stink. But anyway. All right, folks. Welcome. It's episode number 6 here on ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So I'm Bob Turner. I'm sitting here with Officer Ernie Macvane from the Windham Police Department. So. Everybody be on your best behavior. So anyway, I got about a half-page intro here, but I'm going to try not to screw it up. Ernie's a native of South Portland. He's been with the department since 1999, right here in Windham. He's got a degree in fire science investigation from the Southern Maine Technical College. He's been an emergency medical technician since '94, and a paramedic since '96. You're old.
I am old. I feel old.
He's a graduate of the Federal Training Program for Tactical Paramedics. He's a certified instructor for the Maine Criminal Justice Academy for Medical Emergency Training and a graduate of the Federal DEA Basic Narcotics Investigators School. So
I forgot about that.
yeah. Well, hang on. There's more. He was previously assigned as a task force agent for the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, in the United States Department of Justice. His primary responsibilities were conducting state and federal drug investigations throughout Maine and New England. Dude, would you have any spare time? So
It's at a premium.
yeah. Well, hey, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
We've got a mutual friend, and I'm starting, now that we've done a few of these, people are reaching out and saying, hey, you should have so-and-so on. So I got one of those messages this week and just called up Ernie out of the blue and said, hey, you're coming over? And we're going to do a podcast. He's like, who, me? I said, yeah, you. So you're doing some good stuff. So take a minute, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I did check on that warrant for you.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
all cleared up.
And I promised some people I would keep my Dukes of Hazzard, Roscoe P. Coltrane stuff to a minimum tonight.
No, so you're bringing me back in time already because that little interview production was written by a really good friend of mine. I didn't write that myself.
Really?
Ron Ramsdale was a longtime sergeant
yeah.
here at the Windham Police Department. Great guy, retired several years ago, and he was one of our pioneers to first sort of put together a web page for the police department. And I remember having to sit down and he's like, write a few lines about yourself. I'm like, a few? But he's a great guy, and he still stays in touch. And one of the originals, but one of the original members. And it was a real mentor to me. He's a real good guy. I'm glad this survived. I didn't even know that still existed.
Yeah, I got on it. I like to do a little homework.
I'm not going to ask what else you found.
Where did we get to page 2? So, how'd you get in public safety? What was your career path? You've been at it a long time. You've done a lot of things.
I have. I had a pretty good idea growing up what I wanted to do. I lived with my mom and dad, my sister and brother in South Portland. And my grandfather was a firefighter at the local volunteer fire department in South Portland. And I got involved with the South Portland Fire Department on a ladder company in Willard Square. That's over by Willard Beach in 1990, I think. I think I was 16 and my parents had to sign off.
Oh, yeah.
And back then they would outfit you with this giant radio box that you'd carry around on your belt. God, if you ever fell in the water, you drowned. And it was, I look back at it now, and I have to laugh because, I just get my driver's license. I was 15 at the time, and they strapped me with this radio box and tell me to drive like hell to fires.
Perfect.
So that's how I got my start. And the fire service, it segued. It opened a lot of doors for me. A lot of doors I took. There's some doors I didn't. I wish I did. But I've had a great career, man. I could complain, but not that much.
Yeah. Well, nobody's listening, right?
Right.
We
at least 12 of them are.
Right. I think we're up to 13.
That's awesome.
So hey, subscribe on YouTube. Anyway, we talked a little bit before we sat down. You were talking about how being a paramedic has kind of helped you improve the quality of service that you can provide, even as a police officer. So talk about that for a minute. Yeah.
So medicine is really pre-hospital medicine is really where my education is. That's my foundation. I started my full-time career as a paramedic in Old Orchard Beach when I was around 20 years old.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was really young to be a paramedic. And
right.
I was a pretty motivated guy. I had lots of hair. I was working at a beach. That's where I met our mutual friend.
Yep.
And then I did really well. I did okay. And and then Columbine happened, and there was a lot of students and a lot of faculty died in a school shooting, waiting to be brought out to medicine.
Yeah.
And there was sort of a whole shift after that on the delivery of medicine to the sick and injured inside a hostel, or what we refer to as a hot zone, a danger zone. And they said, well, these people could have survived if we inserted medicine to them.
Right.
So they picked up this model, and of course all kinds of federal money came out, and I applied for a class and was accepted with I think a couple other guys from the state of Maine. And I went to Contom school, and that's sort of the benchmark for paramedics that work on SWAT teams. And at the time, I was still a full-time paramedic in Old Orchard Beach. No Old Orchard Beach stories. And I had become a reserve. One of my mentors early in my career, Timothy DeLuca.
Yep.
And he was a Windham guy.
Yeah, I
And-
went to high school with his brother John.
Yeah, great guy, great family. They
Yep.
still live down here in
Yep.
Windham. Check on them, everything else.
Yep.
He got my feet wet in law enforcement in Old Orchard Beach.
Yep.
And then, but once I got out of Contoms and I had those skills, I think I got hired. Offered a full-time job in Windham, I think on a Wednesday, and then I got hired on a Thursday for Westbrook.
Yeah.
and I picked Windham.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. I was recruited by a guy named, he would become one of my sergeants, Dave Bono. He's retired
Yep.
now. Super guy. And Dave Thomas.
Yep.
And those guys were both martial arts instructors, and that's how I kind of got my job here. I met them at a training class and gave them a lesson.
Oh, I was gonna say, it would have been smart if you just let them beat you up a little bit.
Well, they hired me, so I
Gotta go against the instructor.
and that's how I ended up in Windham.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
it's been great ever since.
Well, you've been at it a long time. Talk to me about work-life balance and how, there's a lot going on. It's not the most popular time in the world to be a police officer.
No, it's
so
not.
how is it different today, and how do you balance all that stuff with just being civilian at times?
Hey, Bob,
You want to make an appearance?
come on up here.
Yeah, he's coming up.
Oh, hey, Bud, I got you a cookie. Hold
Tuck's
on.
making an appearance.
Cookie. He just wants to come up.
Yeah.
He's a good judge of character. So work-life balance, yeah. So I have a dog.
Yeah. Clearly.
But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to speak the truth to you. You never really leave it
Yeah,
at work.
right.
You have calls during the day that are a really big deal, and it's hard to check that at the door when you go home. I sometimes have calls with folks that are having a tough day, and I go home at night and wonder, are they going to survive their night?
Right.
And then the first thing you do when you come in the morning is check your incidents to see, how this family
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
You don't hang that in your locker and head out the door.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Some do it better than others. You talk about disconnect for me. I like to go to the gym, obviously not now, but I'm on and off with that. I like to play music. I play in a band.
I know you didn't get by my guitar over there.
I might have to seize that. But no, but being able to play in a band with folks that have nothing to do with law enforcement or nothing to do with public safety has been a real help, therapeutic for me, because it gives me a chance to just disconnect, be cool.
We talked about that. I wail on the guitar a little bit myself. Not very good, but it's hard to think about something else while you're doing it. So it's
Yeah.
a nice little escape.
It is. It is.
What there's a lot going on out there. What if you had any specific incidents of somebody hating on you because you're wearing the blue?
I don't think. Yeah. Well, see, now you just hit the nail right on the head. So I don't think people particularly hate us as a person. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there's people out there that hate me, but there's more people that love me. I get a lot of love from my community.
Yeah.
We all do. I'm pretty popular on social media.
You put yourself out there.
I do, and that's good. It's good for my community because it gives them access to me.
Right.
I go to church in the morning when I can. My supervisor's been great. I've been doing it for 22 years.
Yep.
And the folks get to see me and talk to me, and I get to visit with them.
Right.
And it, one of the greatest compliments you can get as a law enforcement officer is when a citizen calls asks for you specifically to help them with their problem. And I got to tell you, that happens to me 3 or 4 times a day sometimes.
No kidding.
So much that my supervisor, one of my other supervisors, a great guy, says, look, stop giving, people aren't allowed to call and ask for him. And he did it to be helpful.
Yeah.
But, just today someone was hitting me up. Hey, can you call me? I got this real problem. I'm like, well, you really need to, call the department.
Right.
And do this. But I can tell you right now, and this is reality, a lot of times I'll be sitting at home watching TV, playing with my dog, and my phone will ring, or I'll get a beep on Messenger, and it'll be someone with a gun in their mouth.
Wow.
And they want to talk. And
That's
so
heavy stuff.
It is heavy stuff, and it puts my loved ones in a position where I'm like, go get the other phone, because I got to get a call into 911, because I got to get these people to definitive care, or at least an intermediate care, to interrupt, what's happening.
Going on, yeah.
And it's tough because, I could be in the middle of MASH and my phone's ringing, and
you still watching MASH?
It's are you kidding me? I accepted this gig because I thought you were cool. He took me to the bone.
So I mean, you got some stuff coming at you, and a lot of people just, there's a lot heaped on you at times.
Yeah.
What kind of coping mechanisms do you have, or outlets do you have? I mean, besides playing the guitar or whatever, but how do you flush that out?
I feel like I should be laying on a couch.
Right. I should be wearing some glasses.
You better waive the copay on this.
But I mean, you got to show back up the next day, right? I mean, you got to put
tough.
the stuff back on and get out there, and
Traditionally, it's been my experience that my counselors are my teammates, my family. I work in a very strong. I'm not going to cry. I work in a strong department where we really look at each other closely.
Yeah.
And our administration has taken many steps actively, currently, as we speak, to make sure we're healthy and to make sure we're protected, and that we have avenues to talk to someone if we get into trouble. I was just reading the meeting notes from the last supervisors meeting, where they are already looking to employ a counselor full-time, I say full-time, but shared full-time with another agency that we'll have access to, and that's great. But I'm going to tell you right now, cops, firemen, we talk to each other.
Yeah.
We come in and they know who's walking through the door. Whoa, you pick up on it immediately. And some days are better than others.
Probably can pick up on it just on somebody's body language.
I eat, sleep, and breathe with these people.
Yeah.
These are my brothers and sisters, and people. Family goes beyond blood.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these people know me better than anybody.
Right.
And, there's times where I come in and I just can't do anything. And my partners and my supervisors know that, and they just pick up the slack.
Right.
And then next week I do it for them.
Yeah, you're just exhausted.
But music has been really healthy for me. I'm lucky to still have my parents. My mom and dad live across the street.
Yeah.
I have a really supportive girlfriend at home.
Because it can't be any picnic at times to be the spouse of a cop or fireman.
It's tough because they want to understand and they want to help you, but sometimes I just need that space.
Yeah.
I have a 16-year-old son. That's just the light of my life. And he lives with his mom, but his mom and I are...
Yeah, co-parenting.
Oh, yeah, man, we killed it. We knocked it out of the park. I mean, our son is Tyler. He's the best. He's an ace. He's honor roll student.
Where's he go to school?
Thornton Academy.
Thornton, yep.
I couldn't, she's just a great mom.
Yep.
She's a good friend. It isn't always peaches and cream, but...
It doesn't have to be ugly, right?
But there's nothing, we don't keep anything from each other. And I think that gave my son a lot of confidence, because I'm being honest with you, a lot of calls for service here in town are helping families manage their day. Mm-hmm. And, you try to... you can open doors, you can't make them walk through them. So
this is true. You can lead a horse to water, can't make him drink, right?
Right.
So you had a little brush with fame, from what I understand.
Yeah, which time?
The one I know about is the one with you chasing the cows down the road.
Those things have...
That was. we're gonna work that video into the video podcast.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Why'd you get the video of me playing Eruption or something?
Maybe you can find that too.
We got a possible mad cow situation here. We're gonna handle this. All right, you guys. I need you to step over the side of the road, put your hands up in the air. Don't run from me, I'm the police. Hey, get back here. Watch out for the mailbox. All right, down on the ground. Get down on the ground. Stop resisting. Well, that's booze. Leave it alone. It's not good for you. That's booze. Pinnacle vodka. All right, guys. Yeah, head in there. Keep moving. Windham 20 County. They're fleeing on me. But the story behind the video of the cows was, I think it was like a 100-degree day sometime in a few years past. And my son was little, and my son is, our children right now have exposure to the world at their fingertips. Nothing like we had. I mean, we used to watch Dan Rather. You probably saw Walter Cronkite, because you're pretty old.
TV went off at midnight, remember? They played the national anthem.
I remember that.
TV went off at midnight. That was the end of it. And then you had the bars in the morning.
Right.
You just sit there and stare at the screen until it.
Remember the little white dot that would like grow into a picture? Yeah, so but our children have access to they see everything at the tips of their fingers. And I think it was like 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 Texas cops had been ambushed and shot and killed. Yeah. And our kids hear that, so naturally at the time my son was younger, he worries about his dad, and I've been pretty good, and his mom too, especially his mother, has been pretty good about keeping him from that. But he's 16 now.
Yeah, they can find out whatever they want.
So when I made that video, the intent was, Daddy's going to do something funny. I'm going to chase some cows down the street, and I'm going to send it to Tyler, and he's going to say, oh, that's just what Dad really does at work. Yeah. Well, I showed it to my sergeant, the one I told you about, Dave Bono. Yeah. And Dave says, well, we're going to put it on our Facebook page. Yeah. And then that was it. Blew up. Millions and millions of views. I was on, what's that show that, I don't know. They always, Inside Edition. Yeah. They called me up. I'm like, are you going to fly me out? They're like, no.
We just want the story, right?
But it was funny, and it gave a lot of... we got a lot of positive vibes back at the PD. Yeah. Yeah. I was getting job offers from Dutton Ranch out in Yellowstone.
Perfect. Probably what's it pay, right?
Well, it would have been funny if I actually caught him.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, if you're from Windham, if you haven't chased a couple cows, you haven't lived, right?
Right.
So, you've probably seen some really funny stuff.
I have.
Yeah.
Mostly at the fire station. Yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
Down
at the police station, yeah. So one of the funnier stories, well, I don't know, you might have to edit this one out. One of the funny stories, and it was nothing malicious, it was just cops being funny, was we used to have a guy that worked for us, he's retired now, who like to enjoy a donut, even if they weren't his, right? So
I wasn't going to say anything about donuts either. He
would come in, and if you had your lunch out, it was fair game to him. So he had done something to me. I can't remember what he did. We were pranking me. Yeah. So I took his donut and I squished all the jelly out of it, right? And I hooked it up to the soap dispenser, filled it up with soap. And he ate that donut. He was so pissed.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff's endless in the police and fire, I'm sure.
Oh, that's the kind of stuff that, keeps it light. And
you got to have those lighter moments.
Yeah.
Out on the road. I still do sometimes, but run and bike a lot. And I've noticed, everybody's, in this, and a lot of them are smoking dope at the same time. Somebody will go by you and you're like, whew. Yeah. That never happened to me before it was legalized. Yeah. But now you get somebody's, I'm running down the road, somebody comes at you, and then you get that late turn like that, and that I'm like, you don't see me, going like this. But is it on the rise or on the decline? The texting.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's nothing from even in a marked unit to pull up to someone in traffic, and this is the other thing they do. They do this stuff and try to hold it down there. We've all done it. Yeah. So I just over the summer had a guy got clipped at the Rotary. It wasn't a distracted driving, but it plays into the how dangerous it is out there. And as far as the impaired driving, I mean, it's always been a problem. But what people don't see from a law enforcement standpoint is the amount of man hours, or woman hours, officer hours that go into an OUI. If you have an impaired driver, let's say you have an impaired driver on marijuana, like you just referenced, okay? That's a little bit different than by way of how we proceed with them than alcohol, because they have to be assessed a different way. And it can by the time you do a roadside assessment, get the car towed, get the person arrested, get them to jail.
Keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
Right. Breaking the law. Maybe we'll play that one. And get back and actually sit down to do your report.
Right.
That officers can be out of service sometimes for several hours.
It's your whole shift.
Right. Well, and then with manpower, with our minimum staffing is at 3 officers. You can take an officer off the road for 2 or 3 hours. That leaves 2 officers to handle calls for the whole city, or the whole town. And Windham is not a quiet town anymore.
No,
I don't
20,000 people?
I think so, 18 to 20, I think, something like that. But
it's always something going on.
yeah, and I've noticed you asked about law enforcement 10 years ago as compared to today, and you said, well, what's the difference? The difference is families are requiring a lot more service than they did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And, I joke about it, but I don't joke about it. It says 90% of my job as a police officer is social work.
Counsel.
It really is social work.
Has that ticked up during COVID?
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
People.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stress and anxiety out there. People have limited access to services that they need.
Yep.
When people don't know, they speculate.
Right.
And when people speculate, it's human nature to speculate worst case scenario. So it's very easy to sit in your home and become your own worst enemy.
Right.
And, who knows, who do you believe? Most of the people out there that are reporting on stuff get their education from Facebook memes.
Right.
But one person has an exponential voice with social
Just
media.
goes,
So, and I don't agree with everything I hear, and I'm gonna stay apolitical.
Yeah.
And but it's tough to weed through what's really happening, and and people that don't put enough thought in it can really wind themselves up.
Yeah.
So
what's the toughest time of year to do what you do? Is there a time of the year where it's like, Jay said?
Well, if the Patriots are in the Super Bowl and I'm working, that's a tough time.
Yeah, I didn't have to worry about that this year.
Yeah, so holidays are tough.
Yeah.
People suffer, people struggle, and people have to work. Right now, they have to work 3 times as hard for what they got.
Yeah.
Gas is through the roof, and people are just having a tough time.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason we started doing this, because just to throw some positivity out there, and it seems like just so much negativity, and I just figured people just need a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you? I mean, you've been in this town for a long time. What do you see as the future of this town? And you go by the skate park. There's kids there.
I love it.
I went by there the other day when it was that warm, the fall, spring.
They were playing
day,
ball.
playing basketball. That was me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? I mean, it seems like a good group coming up, and there seems like a little bit of a changing of the guard in this town, where some of the older folks are, obviously passing away, and it's an old farm town, and there's a lot of newer people in town. What are you seeing?
So I see it happening to me right now.
Yeah.
So I'm 48 years old. I got a few years left here.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to have some really unique experiences here at the police department that a lot of officers haven't had, or won't have, or haven't had yet. It's my job to pass that on, because I'm not going to do this job forever. I'm going to tell you right now, when I can go, I'm going.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
I'm going to go catch sharks with my brother.
Yeah.
But I see that with other community members stepping up.
Yeah.
You brought up a name the other day, Pat Modi.
Yeah.
Greatest guy on the planet.
Oh,
His wife, a rock star. And he had a lot to do with getting those basketball courts. And
Pat, you're going to be on the podcast, just so you know.
yeah. Well, I went out and bought a basketball.
Yeah.
In the back of my Cruiser, I have an extra bulletproof vest, a few breaching tools, a shield, and a basketball. And my basketball is my most important tool, because it gets me out there playing ball with those kids.
Yeah.
And you never know when that card's going to cash in.
Right.
You know, I could be at a horrible situation. I can have a kid come up to me, hey man, you remember me? I played ball with you the other day. I'm like, yeah, what's happening? Well, you know, geez, my mom's in a tough spot right now.
Yeah.
What can you do to help me? And that connection is there. And
That
that's
was the difference
huge.
between a kid maybe talking to you and maybe not.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he's like, yeah, this guy's all right.
No,
I'm
we
gonna
used to
talk
have
him.
that when we were kids. I grew up in the village in South Portland, you know, and we had the Boys Club of America. That's
Right.
where I grew up.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to have the officers. They used to walk the beat, and you know, they'd stop and talk to us.
Yeah.
And I remember that disappeared for a while.
Right.
But not in Windham. We have I hear about all these police departments, and officers are jumping ship and going other places. Not here. I mean, I think we've lost one to another department, but you know, those aren't mutually exclusive dynamics.
Right.
But I got to tell you, we have a good core group of officers, and we have a strong police chief that cares about us.
How many are there?
I think there's 30 of us.
Wow.
And we're down a couple. But I'll tell you what we have in Windham that you just don't see. At least I don't see it. Our citizens love us.
Yeah.
They love us.
Right.
I get blown up on my Facebook.
Yeah.
I get calls. It's nothing to come into the station and just see like a mound of food. I like lobster rolls, mayonnaise. Go lighter on the sugar. But
Watching
but
the
these
carbs.
people love us, and
Yeah.
you know, I've had people reach out to me because you know my Facebook is open, and like I said, and I'll have a tough call, and no one will know about it. It won't be on the news, and I'll get messages from people in
Right.
town. Hey, I heard you on the radio. It sounded like you had a hard day. You okay?
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa,
It's pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well, speaking of our youth, what would you tell a young person that was considering law enforcement as a career?
do well in school.
Yeah.
And what are some of the biggest, be a kid and live your life and have fun, but don't do anything that's gonna don't do something now that's gonna prevent you from doing what you want to do in the future. You know, it was
one stupid mistake as a 16-year-old can
last
screw
forever.
you up from.
You know, one social media post of you doing something foolish can come back 20 years later to haunt you. And there are professional diggers out there that will dig through your background. You know, go out, have fun. You don't need to drink and drive. You don't need to drink or smoke weed at all, I don't think.
It's amazing. Some people can't get through the day without that.
It's tough.
You know, and
It really is.
everybody's dealing with something, but it seems a lot more prevalent than it used to be.
Yeah, and there's a lot of dangers with that kind of substance in the developing brain. And there's a reason why the drinking age is 21. It's just not an arbitrary number.
Right.
You know, the brain usually comes to maturity around 20, 21, 22 years old. And, you know, during that time, the brain is learning how to learn. So if you're introducing substances like alcohol, marijuana, or other, you know, drugs, your brain is altering in the way it learns, and it's developing different pathways and everything else, and then you're behind the 8 ball. Stay healthy.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I did.
Get involved. I mean, you were involved in the fire department as a teenager.
Yeah, I played sports, and it was different when we grew up, you know. You know, the basketball courts at the boys' club were sometimes a boxing ring.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know
Oh, yeah.
that's stuff we need to get away from. And I think kids these days, they have more access to resources. You know, now you can cut and paste your reports. We didn't have that.
No, man, I'd have done a lot better.
But there's just so much information. It's like my son today. He's like, Dad, I need you to look at this. He's putting in for some sort of student leadership training, right? And for the Rotary or something. He had to write an essay about some of his leadership things that he's done, and he's on the premises of becoming a Boy Scout, and he's done a lot of
Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout.
Nice.
And he's right there, and he sends me this report, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, this guy's writing better some of the reports I'm reading at the station. And he's 16 years old.
Yeah.
And they're just, I know there's, like, I can help him with biology because that's where my education,
Right.
someone is with medicine. Don't ask me to help him with math.
Right.
No way. You know, chem, I can keep up a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's surpassed his dad.
Well, that's good. Is he going into law enforcement?
Not if I, I don't know. He may. He really likes the outdoors, and I think conservation law enforcement is something he's looking
Maybe
at.
game warden or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. I'd like to, he's going to watch this, so
Yeah.
I just want him to be happy and
Let him do his thing.
let us know that his dad
Well,
supports him.
to that end, you're probably in your twilight years of your career.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd have done differently? I mean, or are you just like perfectly happy with the way it all worked out?
Interesting. So some of the things that I would have done differently are probably not the answers you're looking for. I would have invested more in my retirement.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, an early IRA, an early deferred comp, and I'm in a pension plan right now. But looking back, if I had started some of these other, retirement contributions early, just as a lateral,
Yeah.
I would have a better chunk of change when I decide to get done. I mean, I'm going to do okay because I was the guy that actually read the pamphlet, So I invested in the retirement health.
Yeah.
So a lot of people in public safety, they'll work, they'll be able to get out after 20 or 25, but they can't afford insurance until they're 62.
Yeah.
You're a private contractor, you probably get it.
Yep.
So, but not me. So when I retire, my benefits will carry, but I pay into it now.
Right.
So that'll save me whatever premium is, probably $1,200, $1,400 a month, that I don't have to go out and get a part-time job to.
Do you think you'll do anything in retirement? Or
I'll stay on as a paramedic.
Yep.
I enjoy medicine still.
Yeah.
My end game for me is, so what I'm doing right now is I'm training. I'm building my son to enjoy the things that I enjoy doing. Like
Yep.
I like to go shark fishing. I like to go boating, fishing, and we like to go bird hunting and things like that. All things that by the time I'm done with him, he'll be an ace. So when I need a little help doing it,
Right.
he's going to be able to help me.
Self-serving, right?
But my plan is to, when I get done, I'm going to get a little bigger boat. And I was talking to my captain, Ray, who's a very good friend of mine. He just got his guide's license. So
Nice.
he can take people out on guides. I think I'm going to do something by way of getting my captain's license. And I'm going to get a little bit, I have a Grady White right now. I'm going to get a little bigger one. Maybe do like shark fishing charters or something like that.
Do whatever you want,
Yeah.
right?
Go out and catch mermaids.
You paid. You paid your dues, so you're in a band.
Well, the band I have been playing with the last year's kind of taking a little break right now.
Yeah.
We may get together in the summertime. Different people rotate in, but I'm hosting an open mic night in South Portland. An open mic night is just basically my partner, Chris Skidgel, who's the lead guitarist for the Time Pilots band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a multi-instrument musician. And we opened the bar. My best friend opened the bar, so he lets us use the back room, and we set it up so people like you can come in with your guitar or use ours, and we have all the equipment.
Nice.
But when it's slow, we have to fill that time.
So you just play.
Well, he makes me play bass. Well, he doesn't make me. I can't even stand on stage with him with a guitar because he's great.
Yeah.
So I play bass, but it's fun because I've got to make a lot of new friends, and a lot of times when these musicians that never even met each other come together and say, "Hey, I know that song. Hey, I know that," and everybody gets up and plays together.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
Get in a band.
Come to an open mic. I'll stick you up there.
My daughter says it sounds okay, Dad, till you start singing.
Oh, I cannot sing. I can't talk on the radio. So these people will call in. They'll be like, "Hey, we want to talk to the officer I just talked to." And they're like, "Well, who did you talk to?" I'm like, "I don't know, some woman." It's me. People hear my voice on the scanner, and they think I'm a female, but I'm a big, strong man, handsome too, and so those guys get a kick out of it all the time, and because everything's recorded, so they record our, sometimes they record our conversations, and the guy would, "Ma'am, please understand, ma'am." I'm like, "Listen, I'm a guy."
Dude.
Well, if you can't laugh at yourself, what can you laugh at, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this has been cool. I mean, I've come across you a couple times, only in good settings, of course.
Yeah.
But I knew who you were, but I don't think you really knew me. But it's been good to get to know you a little bit. I'd like to talk to you after about which two cops are where at certain times so we know what's going on here. We can do a little community service, let people know where you guys are at.
Shift changes at 6:30.
Shift change.
Well, that's the other thing I should touch on, because we always get these complaints. It's like, oh, there's cops are hanging out at the fire station. They're not doing anything. Well, the community doesn't know is that we have almost like we have a station inside the fire station that has all of our police computers and everything else. And by having that in North Windham, it keeps the North Windham officers in North Windham.
Right.
And but we can, do all our reports right there. But
sometimes it can make a big difference. So all kidding aside, from coming from down here at the public safety building to getting to something on, say, 115, right?
Well, it happened
2 minutes.
It happened just last week. We had a scenario, and you may have to edit this out, I don't know, but it was a scenario where it came in where a 30-ish-year-old person had collapsed and wasn't breathing, and the rescue units for him were coming from all the way across town.
Yeah.
And I was a minute away.
Yeah.
So I was able to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
With Narcan and a bag valve mask and keep this guy breathing long enough until definitive care could show up and completely reverse what happened. And it doesn't have to, I'm not necessarily talking about me, because anyone could have done it. But because I was in my area when that call came in, I bridged that 3 or 4 minutes and saved that guy's brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Well, he's lucky.
Yeah.
He's lucky that, personnel were where they were supposed to be when they needed to be, and, it started out kind of, comical, we're parked at the fire station, but it really does keep us in our area.
Yeah.
And when we have to run code 3 for someone at Walmart beating his wife in the parking lot.
Not that ever happens at Walmart.
No. We love Walmart. I shouldn't have said Walmart. I just say North Windham, somewhere in the business district. Yeah, cut that part.
Sorry, Sherma.
No, when something, but what it does is it cuts our emergency response time down, so we don't have to run hot and put everybody at risk, including ourselves. So I shouldn't have said Walmart. It could happen anywhere. The mall. I don't know.
Walmart doesn't care about us.
Oh, we love Walmart. Walmart. I think years ago there was talk about actually putting a station like in Walmart. There used to be an eye care center there.
Yeah.
So, but
well, I mean, would you guys, if you worked in there, would you have to wear slippers and pajamas?
I don't know. I'd stick my supervisor at the front checking receipts. Cut that part.
So you're out there in the community a lot. People probably don't need to know how to get a hold of you, but if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
So typically in Windham, we have a non-emergency number. It's the 892-1000. Obviously, if there's an emergency, you can dial 911. You shouldn't be dialing 911 because your kid won't go to school, or something like that. But, we have a tip line. I think, was my email on that website?
It probably was. I didn't get it, but I can add it. I can put it in the notes.
Yeah, maybe put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of resources in town. Windham is a very strong community if you take the time to look at it and look at the dynamics, look at the town leadership. It's really strong. And I'll finish my career here.
Yeah, I grew up here.
Anywhere
I've been here since I was 7, and I went to school here, and I run my business here, and so it's. I wouldn't say I'm super active in the community, but that's part of the reason I'm doing this too. Is put something out there where people can take a little something from it. Maybe somebody's gotten to know you a little bit better today.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe take one of those people that think that don't like you and make them somebody that does like you.
It's funny. My brother always says, because my brother's name is Macvane and he lives in Windham, and they're like, "Oh, it's your brother Ernie," because he doesn't know if he's gonna get a hug or have to duck a punch.
Well, yeah, and I get that. You probably get that a little bit when obviously you got into street clothes tonight, but probably don't waste any time doing that after a shift just to get the vest off and all that. But you probably have had some moments where you see somebody that you might not rather see in your personal life that you saw in your professional life.
99% of the time, I'm 100% fine.
Yeah.
And it's because I treat people, some days are better than others, but most of the time I treat people the way I would want to be treated, even on their toughest day.
Yeah.
And, I've been out to dinner with my family before and, have a round of beers or a round of drinks show up at my table, and I'm like, well, what is this? and I'll look over and someone will be waving at me, and it'll be a guy that I arrested a month ago.
Right.
And he'll come over and say, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm doing much
Changed my
better."
life.
Right, yeah. And those are the positive ones. The only once in my career have I been grabbed off duty by someone that I've arrested, and that was 20 years ago.
How'd that go for him? Oh, well.
It was an unfortunate situation.
It was an unfortunate situation.
I mean, no one got. I mean, it was just uncomfortable for
Yeah.
everybody. But
So, yeah.
20 years ago, I mean, that's a long time for that not to happen.
So Macvane, like I joked at the beginning, Macvane, you grew up in South Portland, and I knew, I didn't know him well, but your cousin Pete, who was a South Portland police officer, passed away from cancer. And one of my best friends, Mike Matheson, who's a South Portland police officer, is a very close friend of Pete's.
Yeah.
And you know Mike.
I sure do.
How do you know Mike? I hope you're watching, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. I had my driver's license for about a week. Back then, we didn't have the restrictions that we do now, but I had a couple of friends in the front seat, and we weren't paying attention. I blew right through a stop sign, and Mike Matheson gave me my first ticket. So,
Come on, Mike.
what are you doing? Bro code.
He'll probably say that was the moment that you decided you were going to be a police officer.
I tell you what, back in those days, I was more afraid of my parents and my football coach than I was the police. And sometimes now I feel like kids have no fear whatsoever.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that.
A little bit of fear can be healthy.
I've always believed that.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun. I appreciate it. It's
Thanks for having me.
It's good to connect, and we're going to hit the guitar a little bit here for a couple of minutes. Ernie Macvane, Windham Police Department. If you guys have enjoyed this, like it, share it, check us out on YouTube, subscribe. I'm trying to get my subscribers up because that's what you do, I guess. And if you know somebody that you think would be a great guest for us to have on, shoot me a DM or whatever you kids are calling it these days, and we'll get them on. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Stay safe, everyone. You like the Beatles?
Yeah.
I can't sing the song because I sound like a moron.